After all that you have been, or to sacrifice, what you do next decides your own fate. And what shall you do with divinity?
And so it ended. A tale that began with my own ill-fated attempt to rid the world of the Godwoken. Dallas the Hammer, the secret eternal, purged the Godwoken and used the Source to close the veil to the void. The world was saved. Statues in memory of the Godwoken who sacrificed their Source were erected all across Rivellon. They would never be forgotten. The half-demon Malady took pity on the soulless, God-woken silent monks and brought them to the Hall of Echoes. There, from the scraps of their souls that remained, she restored them to life. Sorcerers no more, they lived out the rest of their lives, freed of the burden of being the God-woken, freed from the weight of the world. As for me, I was already free, and so were the others. The God-woken sacrifice severed the bond between the Sworn and the God-King. To atone for my sins, I spent the rest of my days taking care of the sick and elderly, telling the story of the Godwoken, that the world may never forget the greatest heroes Rivellon had ever known.
Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. A silent monk. At least that's what you'd be if it weren't for Malady. Like I would about the return of the codpiece, that it's highly unfashionable. The man's a man, all too prone to the weaknesses of the heart. We've seen the results of his errors firsthand. I give it a week before he errs anew. Yes, well, that's to say, that's love, not... All right, you made a point. Besides, Lucian. Perhaps even a god deserves a second chance, even if he is a god without powers. As for myself, I'm counting on a second chance as well. Why, I mean my empire, of course. I intend to go home as soon as I can. After all, I've dragons to raise. I need to teach them to be good boys and girls before they set the entire world on fire. There may be an accident or two along the way. Can't be helped, I'm afraid. I do so long to see my palace again. The Forbidden City. The scents of spices and incense. The sound to sit all day in perfumed shade and watch the white of the marble change with the journey of the sun. But above all, I long to be with Sadha. Long to finally have the time to love. Oh, but before you go, remember how when we first met, I took you by the jaw to inspect your teeth? Not something one forgets in a hurry. Now, if you recall, as per your own testimony, you can groom, but alas, you've no culinary skills whatsoever, and you lack a sense of fashion. Far from ideal. Still, I'm nothing if not a tolerant man who believes in individual growth. I'm sure the journey taught you much. As such, I'd like to offer you what I denied you before, the opportunity to become my slave. What say you?
Taken quite by surprise, he staggers back, blood dripping down his nostrils.
I take that as a no, then. Fair enough. But next time, please, use your words. You had your chance. Now all your life you'll wonder, what if?
Malady stands tall and proud, sunlight sparkling off her mask. From here, she looks almost angelic.
Ah, there you are. More than a silent monstrosity, less than a god. In the end, I'm not totally convinced it was worth my while to restore your consciousness, seeing what you've done with it so far. Where did I go wrong? How is so boring. It's the why that surprises me. Unfortunately for me, I've grown rather fond of you. Still, I'd expected quite a bit more from you. I was interested in being owed a favor by a shiny new god, not some emperor of the realm. Never mind. I'll find another way. I always do.
She fingers the mask, covering her face. For a moment, it seems as though she's about to remove it, but instead, she places a hand on your shoulder.
We've come a long way together. I did my best by you all the way. Sacrificed much. And I'd have given even more to see you fulfill your destiny.
She looks you up and down.
I guess this will take a moment, why don't you? Relax, enjoy. I certainly plan to do the same. Oh, I don't know, around and about. Treat myself to some mead, a lover or 300. I'd say we've earned it. Perhaps our paths will cross again. Perhaps not, until we find out.
The flaming hatchling bounces and cheeps out of sheer...
Daddy! Daddy! Looky!
It takes you a moment to realize the egg you've been carrying has hatched at long last. The chick trills contentedly and flaps its tiny feathers in recognition.
Without source to shield it, the barriers between Nemesis and Rivellon weaken. The void may be kept at bay, but the plane of...
Beast Spirit doesn't acknowledge you as you approach. He only sings, slowly, achingly, sadly.
Here the wild beast just sails on the ocean. He's docked in the bay and coming your way. Off on the yawn, you hear the cupboard can't hide you, nor can your berth. His daggers don't care about the gold that you're worth.
He pauses, then continues to hum.
I always thought that those who resorted to self-sacrifice were lacking in imagination. I must admit, that was rather noble of you. A world without source is one that will need individuals of wit and intellect. A sharp mind is the only magic now. I believe I shall enjoy this new world very much. That is the question, isn't it? How does one top the greatest No, of course you wouldn't. It's a written language, unreadable to most, but myself naturally. I intend to seek them out. This Gustafjan seems to guard portals to their realm. And once I've uncovered one, well, why settle for being the greatest? I do believe you're at...
Well, Quackers. Look who finally graced us with their presence. I suppose some thanks are in order. What? No, you should be thanking me. You're welcome. By the... Honestly, Quackers, some creatures have no sense of perspective.
A huge grin slowly spreads across the screen.
Of course, had you not stopped this God King and his lackey.
The cat moves forward. twisting around your legs and filling the air with the sound of dry...
Ah, quackers! Please, have a little decorum. This battle is won, my friend, but we still have a war to fight. We've undone the Great Acorn, but the Knights of Dre are still out there. They summoned the Great Acorn once. They will be able to summon it again. We have to That is the future Quercus and I have ahead of us. We no longer need a shield. But we are...
The squirrel tenses for half a moment.
Ah! Oh, hi. Quercus. Well, that was certainly an experience. Of course, this has all been something of an experience, eh? I don't suppose any... I never thought I would be proud to... Ow! Quercus! There is no... I do not know what comes next for you. Come, Quercus. We must...
The cat curls up and snuggles into his squirrel friend, who... The purging that once silenced you remains on your mind as you approach Gareth. You are grateful for Malady's miraculous touch. Without it, there would be no you.
Amazing I'm still here. That you're here. And that you might still speak. That Lucian... I only did what I was meant to do. I don't deserve thanks. I gave only the bare minimum. And still...
Gareth shakes his head vigorously in response to his own...
Self-pity is as dangerous as any man I have battled, Alexander included. In this new world, this world without the seven gods, it's a
Aside from a single blink, Gareth stands...
Time. Time has a way of changing someone. Lucian did not start as the man he became. Nor is the man I am now the same as him that once... Lucian doesn't need me. And believe me when I say, I no longer need... I find a way to fit. I wasn't just content to lurk in Lucian's shadow. I was his shadow. Now I stand in the sun as my own man. And so I find out. My goal is to have a goal. If that makes sense at all.
A slight grin crosses the spirit's face. The weather has...
You are a very, very, very lucky person. If Malady hadn't restored us, I'd be a drooling monstrosity, but a vengeful one. The realm is a lot more robust than some people give it credit for. It's probably survived much more than we'll ever even know. I don't know if anyone's free of anything, once and for all. But I'm bloody thrilled to be here now. Just me, myself, and you. Get loot, play loot, get glad. So, Chief, I guess this is it, right? You say that now, but who knows what adventures and redheads life will throw it. Whatever it is, you'll ace it.
As she turns from you, the whites of her eyes darken, the veins in her face go grey, and a wicked smile curls her. Suddenly, it's gone again. She winks, and you're left wondering...
See you around. Are you okay?
No more swords, no more powers. Don't worry, darling. I know you have plenty of other qualities. Who knows? A nice cottage someplace quiet for Mahalia and I. A roaring fire, but a girl needs some fun. To reform my ways. How adorable. No, I'm afraid I cannot escape who I am.
Her eyes flick down to your mouth. She smiles coyly, then her mouth meets yours and devours you with predatory abandon. Somewhere in the recesses of your mind, you think you hear her voice sigh, mine.
Something to remember me by.
The betrayer.
Nathan folds his arms and steps back from you, as if your presence is...
I suppose this is proof I've got really bad taste in friends, to say nothing of lovers. After all that we've been through since Fort Joy, after all that, to end up with Lucian once more. to settle for abject corruption over change.
He fixes you with a steely gaze, eyes burnished pebbles of hatred. Any remnants of the tenderness of your night together has been extinguished. You see before you only a feral animal, baring his teeth in rage.
It was absolutely not. You listened to Lucian. You obeyed Lucian. After everything he did, you allowed him to take our source. And now you have restored a tyrant to power. I intend to spend the remainder of my days. It may not be possible, but when did that ever stop me before?
Ifan pauses, as if about to say something else, then shakes his head. With one last nod, he... Ifan scowls at you.
It gives me almost as much pleasure to speak to you as it does to be whole again. Consider me to be a gift from Malady. My wood was split. I feel better than new. I cannot say whether the future brings peace or pain, but I will always be an ally to those that I am at the ready.
You look out to the endless beyond. The sun's light plays upon the waves, just as it always did. The sails flutter, and with a start, you realize where you must go next. You speak. At last, the world was at peace. The ancient lizard empire opened its gates. The houses disbanded, and the empire adopted a pluralist quasi-democracy. Anyone could vote for whoever they pleased, as long as the House of Shadows approved. Justinia returns to her throne. Under her rule, the Dwarven kingdom prospered, until 2 years later, a jealous lover stabbed her in the heart with a mutton fork. Lucian made amends to the elves. He gave them lands and vast riches from the coffers of the old divine order. But the elves never forgave him. They would not trust humans again. And in a dark forest on the far side of a desert, well beyond the high seas, the Black Ring came together once more. The island of Fort Joy, the old redoute of the Source King Brachus Rex, was turned over to the people of Driftwood to use as they wished. They turned it into a holiday resort. Reaper's Coast prospered. The fisheries returned, and the fertile farmlands produced the greatest harvests the surviving farmers had ever seen. Blood Moon Island became particularly fecund, its soil producing the greatest crops. A particularly crimson-fleshed orange grown on the island became a delicacy across half the world. The black pits took fire. The oil there burns still. Driftwood became a centre of industry, trade, and transport. Lohar the dwarf became mayor. His time in office was cut short by an unfortunate wound that spontaneously appeared on his neck. Your lizard lover finally returned to the ancient lizard empire, there to found the newest and most popular of all the houses, the House of Love. Lagan left his over-demanding wife and began a relationship with a local bard. In the spirit of loving generosity, he returned the ring to his now ex-wife. In a fit of rage, she threw it into the sea. You would never forget Dorothea's kiss. Dorothea herself left Driftwood for the ancient empire, ever in search of the perfect kiss. She never found it, although once or twice she came close. The nameless isle had vanished. Although only open water remained, by instinct ships would steer clear. None of the captains could articulate why. Sir Gareth thanked the surviving seekers for their service and gave them their freedom. Disillusioned with peace, he set out alone to find a new purpose. He would never stop seeking. Young Han went into the theatre and became one of the realm's most popular actors. Almira and Mihaili settled down on the farm. The locals liked and respected Almira. She never wanted for help, and deals always fell to her favor. She presumed she had them in thrall. The truth was, they just liked her. With no new divine, Malady found herself in a predicament. She had an important problem to solve, but no ally strong enough to call upon, and so her search continued. Having performed the greatest act of necromancy in history, Tarquin found the new world unchallenging. He became obsessed with rumors of another plane of existence. One day he vanished and was never seen again. Ahu the wizard became one of Lucien's most trusted advisors once more. He always knew that something had changed in the divine. He never discovered what that was, or if he did, he never said a word. Jehan the demon hunter found himself at a loose end. So he opened a museum of demonic artifacts. He made a fortune. With Lucien in power, Sahala took the elves away from the world. They grew strong once more amidst the trees of the regrown home forest. Some say her plans for revenge will bring about the end of days. Some say only Tova, her mother, holds her back. Lucien returned as divine, united the races, and became Lord Emperor of all Rivellon. Only Dallis knew that he was entirely powerless. Dallis and you. The Eternal, now known as Dallis, was a secret advisor to Lucien and to his successors. For eons she would walk in the world, and would outlive the peoples and all, and wander alone amongst the dying stars. With a small band of elves, Ifan ben Mesd replanted the lost elven forests. After the first fresh shoots broke the earth, he disappeared, and was never seen again. Some say Afrit, his soul wolf, walks the forest still. The Red Prince came home a hero. With Sada, he had more dragons. Soon, Prince became Emperor, one who would not use his dragons for conquest. His realm knew peace, and the world did not burn. Lohse returned to her music, and enjoyed a storied career as Rivellon's premier musician. Dark moods would at times overtake her, and she would spend long hours walking in the wilds. She always returned with a new song. And then there was you. In a world of peace, you could live forever. Your future was yours to decide. But you were a sorcerer no more. Did you accept your new status with gratitude, or did you rebel? Only you know the truth, you and one other. But of him you are free. The God King no longer calls your name. He no longer whispers your shame. Only you know if you atone for your sins.